Have you ever been in the middle of something extremely important where your legs felt like bricks and your lungs felt like they'd burst into flames? The problem is, when we give up just as it starts to hurt, we never discover what we are truly capable of achieving. I learned a lot about pushing past those limits during the Junior Olympics in August 2025. I was running the 4x800 meter relay with my team from Lake Tahoe Track Club. If you've ever tried running an 800, to sum it up, it's 2 laps around a track of fast sprinting and tons of pain. As my teammate, Avery, came around the final curve of the track, she looked absolutely wiped out. When she hit the baton into my open hand behind me, I wasn't nervous anymore. All that was replaying in my mind was how my team had done their job, and now it was my turn. I took off, the crunch of my spikes being the only sound filling my ears. My vision narrowed until there was nothing but the white lane lines, and every stride felt like my legs were turning into lead. As I was coming around the last curve of the track, I shifted gears and found a final burst of speed. I didn't know I had it left and realized we were going to do it. We ended up not only running that race, but also winning it. Standing on top of the big podium with our gold medals dangling from our necks was amazing. But the best part was the lessons I had learned throughout the process. Everyone sees the final product, but they don't see the hours of the early morning training sessions behind the scenes. I've learned that it's not always about the outcome, but the work you put in. That's where the real story is. The struggle and persistent effort will actually give the victory value. And if it were easy, it wouldn't mean anything. However, the gold medals represent only one aspect of my growth and development. And when I look past the finish line and reflect on my experience at T, I see an immense transformation. I'm a much more confident person now than when I first started this journey. But I know I didn't grow into this version of myself alone. My close friends have really helped me grow beyond my limits in academics as well as character. In the classroom, I've learned that I don't have to have all the answers right away. Those moments when we're sitting around a desk, working through a problem that felt impossible 10 minutes earlier, taught me how much my friends really mean to me. We all support each other through the ups and downs, creating a space where it's okay to struggle as long as you keep trying. That sense of teamwork has carried over into my athletics outside of the classroom as well. I'm a massive fan of running, Nordic, alpine skiing, and soccer. These are where I learned what it means to really commit to something. Having to skip the late night sleepovers to wake up early to ski at North Star takes dedication and hard work, mentally as well as physically. Sports have also taught me the importance of community. I've learned that a team can only be as strong as its weakest link, which is why I'm more confident in advocating for both myself and my teammates, making sure we have the resources to succeed together. The most important lesson I'm carrying with me from athletics is gratitude. Sports have taught me to be thankful for the opportunity to compete and for the physical ability to run and move. I owe so much gratitude to the support system of parents and coaches who made it possible in every practice and in every game. Right now, my ability to compete is hindered due to a tough and painful ACL recovery and surgery. Having to sit on the sidelines and support my teammates without competing is difficult and extremely frustrating. I remember exactly when it happened. It had been an amazing, warm day training JS, and we had just gone up the chairlift for our last run down. My dims were set to 7.5, locked in tight enough for fast GS racing and aggressive turns. For a few glorious seconds, I felt like I was flying in the air, weightless, and in total control. Then, in a split second, the rhythm I achieved snapped. Next thing I knew, my skis had double released, followed by a sudden, screaming pain in my right knee that forced all the air out of my lungs. The adrenaline that had been my fuel moments before turned into a cold, sinking realization as I slid down the mountain, eventually coming to a halt. At the beginning of my ACL recovery, I always had the thought of, why me? I asked it during the hours of physical therapy I had to do, and when I was learning to walk all over again. Now, I've started to shift my mindset to why not me. I realized that if I wanted to be a person of character, I needed a challenge that would actually test it. If I wanted to be brave, I had to go through something that truly terrified me. Why not me meant realizing it was a test of resilience. And it taught me that character isn't built when things are going well, but in the moments when you're forced to start over. However, as I stand here today looking out at all of you, I realize that why me is a question that has been probably whispered to ourselves at some point during our time here. The thing about ACL injury is that it's loud. I had the crutches, I had a massive brace, and I had a visible reason to be slow. I needed people to open doors for me because they could see exactly how and where I was hurting. But middle school has taught me that the hardest battles are usually the ones that happen in total silence. Just because you aren't wearing a cast doesn't mean you aren't healing from something. I realize that many of you have been walking wearing invisible braces. And just because someone isn't limping doesn't mean they aren't struggling. This is where growth of empathy happened. To me, empathy isn't feeling bad for somebody. It's the ability to look at a classmate and realize that their bad day might actually be a very difficult chapter of their story that I know absolutely nothing about. This lesson of the invisible brace didn't just happen on the track or while skiing. It also showed up in the middle of our science project during the Rube Goldberg competition. On the surface, a Rube Goldberg machine is supposed to be a series of chaotic reactions to complete a simple task. But behind the scenes, it was a test of patience. My team spent weeks hunched over a gray plastic chair trying to get a marble to roll down a ramp. I had the responsibility of our group's energy when the marble failed for the 100th time. Despite this, we all took stewardship of staying positive and keeping the workspace organized, and it meant treating our materials as well as our time with respect. The truth is, our machine was far from perfect. If you look closely, you can see the jagged edges of the wood and the excessive amount of duct tape holding the marble around to the chair. Because of this, it forced me to rethink what craftsmanship actually means. I used to think craftsmanship was about the final polished project, something that looks like it came off a store shelf. But as we wrestled with the machine, I realized that true craftsmanship is found in the things you can't see. Even though the machine didn't run as smoothly as we'd hoped, there was pride in our use of problem solving. Rather than throwing things together, we were actually learning that the quality of our work was a direct reflection of the quality of our effort. That project defined craftsmanship for me. It's not just about the beauty of the machine, it's about the care you've put into the parts no one else sees. So, as I stand here today on this stage, I feel like I'm not just graduating, but rather starting a new chapter in my life. There's a saying I've been thinking a lot about recently. Imagine reading a book with no way to turn back the page. How carefully would you read it? That's life. My answer to that is, I would read every single word with absolute focus. When you realize you can't rewrite the chapters behind you, you start paying a lot more attention to the pages you are turning right now. Time is the very reason these moments matter. You learn to embrace the plot twists as well as the challenges. And that is exactly how I feel about my time here. I'm finishing this chapter with 5 more scars on my knee than when I started, but I'm also finishing it with an undeniable sense of pride. If these years have taught me anything, it's that bad things will happen to everyone. But true strength isn't about avoiding the pain. It's about the kindness you still choose to give after you've been hurt. I looked back at where I began as an unsure girl in 4th grade standing at the starting line. Today, I stand here as a track athlete who won the Junior Olympics. I stand here as a ski racer, an empathetic friend, and someone who fearlessly tackles any academic project thrown her way. Most importantly, I stand here as a person who finally knows her own worth. I'm ready to compete again soon, but more than that, I'm ready to see what happens in the next chapter. Thank you, everyone, for being part of my story.